A single confession shattered decades of silence.
Out and it freaked me out being surrounded by.
At 62, Julian Lennon stunned the world with just a handful of words. I utterly hated her.
I never try and shove things down people's throats.
The story behind those words is messy, painful, and loaded with secrets that fans never saw coming. It's a story about family, betrayal, fame, and survival, the kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew about rock royalty.
All the way. But certain circumstances within the relationship and family environment.
What could drive the son of a legendary musician to carry a grudge for a lifetime? Today, you'll discover a side of Julian Lennon that no tabloid ever managed to print, a truth that he's kept buried, until now.
And what happened was that when we got the go-ahead for this exhibition...
Long before he became the son the world pitied, Julian Lennon was just a boy living in the shadow of greatness, craving something ordinary. His childhood looked glamorous from the outside, all because of a famous last name.
You go to security, they give you a sticker saying John Lennon.
But inside the Lennon house, happiness was a stranger. The day John Lennon walked out, it was for someone new, leaving Julian and his mother Cynthia behind. He didn't just lose a father, he lost a sense of safety. No farewell, no explanations, just silence and confusion. Cynthia held everything together, working hard, selling family treasures just to keep food on the table.
You can't live that sort of fairy tale life forever.
While people imagined mansions and endless luxury, reality was a cold flat, second-hand clothes, and uncertainty.
And probably the best thing that happened then was meeting John and having Julian.
Fame brought no comfort, only questions he couldn't answer. At school, Julian became a target. Kids saw the name, thought he had it all, but he felt empty, isolated. They taunted him, bullied him, sometimes even hit him. Teachers rarely helped, assuming he was too privileged to need protection.
And that's hard. That's hard on the art.
His mother was his only shield, her sacrifices building a fragile wall against a world that seemed determined to break him. He learned early that legends only matter to people on the outside. On the inside, the cost is loneliness, not admiration. But Julian held it together, pushing through the pain, refusing to let the world see him fall apart. The foundation of his story was built not on fame, but survival. Growing up, Julian was haunted by the image of a father celebrated for peace and love, but who showed little of either at home. While the world worshipped John Lennon, Julian saw only absence, broken promises, and a man he barely knew. It hurt even more to see his father shower affection on John Lennon, his younger half-brother. The headlines called John a devoted parent, but to Julian, it was hypocrisy. People heard John's music and thought of hope, unity, but Julian felt only rejection, anger.
A few that I've left that I felt very uncomfortable being.
There were whispers, rumors about Julian's birth. John allegedly called him a mistake, while Sean was born out of love. Even if the words were exaggerated, the wounds ran deep, reminding Julian every day that he was different, unwanted.
Struck by, oh, is it really you? But they don't really hear your order, you know?
Cynthia tried to fill the gap, but the pain lingered. The public image of John Lennon, the idol, was everywhere. Posters, songs, documentaries, all reminders of the man who left his first family behind. As Julian grew older, bitterness grew with him, shaping the man he would become. Julian's relationship with his father was always strained.
I had to kneel on the ground just to get through this.
After the divorce, contact became rare, awkward. Sometimes there were forced phone calls, the occasional uncomfortable meeting, but nothing real, nothing healing. John poured his love into Sean, making sure the world saw him as a doting father. But for Julian, there was no such effort. He watched from afar, wanting to believe he mattered, but always feeling like an outsider. Moments of hope would flicker and fade. A guitar here, a kind word there, but then nothing. Years would pass in silence.
Right?
Yeah, whether it's, yeah.
Julian longed for a real connection, a father's guidance, but those hopes were always dashed. The sense of rejection, the unfairness, it all became too much. He stopped expecting anything from John. The father he needed was never coming back. Instead, he built walls, armor made from disappointment, to protect himself from more hurt. Then came the day that changed everything. News of John Lennon's sudden, violent death swept the globe. The world mourned a hero, but Julian's grief was different, quieter, heavier. He was just a boy in a small town, cut off from the headlines and hysteria. He'd spoken to his father days before, felt a rare warmth in his voice, sensed a possibility of reconciliation. That hope was ripped away in an instant.
I was thinking, how am I going to do that?
The shock, the loss, it was overwhelming. No funeral, no goodbye. Yoko Ono announced there would be no public mourning, just a call to honor John's dreams of peace. Julian was left alone with his memories and regrets. The last words he heard from his father echoed in his mind, not because they were profound, but because they marked an end to any chance at healing. The rest of the world cried for a legend, but Julian cried for the father he never truly had. The real betrayal surfaced with the reading of the will. John Lennon left nearly everything to Yoko Ono and Sean, barely acknowledging Julian. All those years of wishing for his father's approval ended with a legal document that confirmed his worst fears. Yoko controlled the estate, the music, the legacy, while Julian was given a small trust fund, nothing more. This wasn't just about money. It was about being erased from his father's story.
That happened without that,
For Julian, the fight became about recognition, identity, belonging. He launched a grueling legal battle, years of negotiations, headlines, sleepless nights. People misunderstood his motives, calling him greedy, but for Julian, it was a matter of pride, reclaiming a part of his history. The final settlement was rumored to be large, but no amount could heal the wounds left by years of being sidelined. While the legal battle raged, so did the silent war with Yoko Ono. She was always there, the gatekeeper of his father's memory, the person who changed everything. Public appearances were awkward, filled with forced smiles and cold stares. For nearly 2 decades, every negotiation, every event, reminded Julian that she held all the power. He resented her, blamed her for much of his pain. In his eyes, she wasn't a stepmother, just a constant reminder of what he'd lost. But life has a way of forcing change. The anger didn't bring peace. Over time, small moments chipped away at the bitterness. A photography exhibit, a chance encounter, the need to keep the peace for Sean's sake. The drama slowly faded, replaced by a fragile truce. They would never be close, never family, but Julian decided not to fight anymore. Not for Yoko, but for his own sanity and for his brother. Through it all, Julian's relationship with Sean became the anchor that kept him from drifting too far into bitterness. They grew up in different worlds, but pain is a powerful bond. For a long time, distance and jealousy kept them apart, but as adults, they found common ground. Shared experiences, mutual understanding, and a desire for connection brought them closer. Sean's kindness and acceptance made Julian see the cost of holding on to hate. Moments together, watching old footage, sharing music, laughing about memories, helped Julian heal. For the first time, he felt like he belonged not just to a name, but to a family. The silent feud with Yoko lost its meaning. The only thing that mattered was protecting his bond with Sean. Julian learned that peace doesn't always come with grand gestures. Sometimes, it's just the quiet decision to let go and move forward. Breaking free from the Lennon name was never easy. No matter where Julian went, people saw his father's shadow, compared his every move to a legend he could never live up to. Music, his first passion, brought constant comparisons and disappointment. The world wanted another John Lennon, not a new artist. The weight of expectations pushed him to reinvent himself. Photography, writing, and personal projects gave him a sense of purpose and identity. He stopped chasing approval and started living for himself. Recent documentaries and renewed Beatles nostalgia never let him forget where he came from, but Julian no longer let it define him. He found peace, not in forgiving the past, but in creating a future on his own terms. He chose to honor his father's memory in his own way, through art, creativity, and quiet resilience. The Lennon name became a legacy he carried, not a prison he escaped from. Julian Lennon's journey is not a story of fairy tale forgiveness or overnight healing. It's a story of pain, struggle, and eventually, acceptance. The words, "I utterly hated her," carried the weight of years lost, opportunities missed, and a family torn apart by choices none of them could undo. But through it all, Julian found a kind of peace, a fragile truce that allowed him to move forward. His story exposes the hidden cost of fame, the myth of perfect families, and the strength it takes to carve out a life in the shadow of a giant. If you've ever struggled with forgiveness or wrestled with your own past, Julian's journey is a reminder that healing is possible, even if it's never perfect. Thank you for watching, and if you found this story compelling, please like, subscribe, and join us for more untold Hollywood legends.